This podcast is brought to you by Legend Comics and Coffee in Omaha, Nebraska, located in scenic downtown Benson. They got a new location. It's absolutely gorgeous. Check it out. And by listeners like you. Go to Patreon.com/2headed nerd. Become a patron. Support this show.
Our story this week picks up where we left off last week.
Broadcasting from the ZIGGURAT at Omaha and caverns hidden deep below the metro area where our ninja hordes plan for nuclear war. It's our pleasure to welcome you to the episode 731 of the Two-Headed Nerd Comic Book Podcast. I'm your head number one, the internet's Joe Patrick.
And I'm your head number two. My name is Matt Baum. I have no idea what these plans are, and it seems like something I would have come up with, so maybe we should talk.
It's the end of light and life and flesh.
Right now, it's time for another Back Issue show, and this time, we reassemble the Slack Issues crew for a special two-part show to read and discuss a classic comic series both Joe and I skipped for really lame reasons. I thought there might be
really good reasons.
We just skipped it.
No, I never knew it existed until after it was out.
We are finally reading the Frank Miller and Bill Sienkiewicz classic, ELEKTRA ASSASSIN. I mean, you've been aware of it for more than 30 years.
Well, sure, but it's not like I skipped it on purpose. Like, you know, the Quick Shop on 48th and Q doesn't get ELEKTRA ASSASSIN.
That's
okay?
fair. That's fair.
After that, we'll set you up with our must-read picks for next week's new comics, but now prepare to be confounded by ninja magic and revolted by rotten mayo. To be clear, it only smells like rotten mayo. But it's back issue review time in the ZIGGURAT.
It might taste like it, too. Nobody looks like they enjoy it when they drink it.
They definitely don't like it.
They go, ooh.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad stuff.
They never young. How to say this classic story? It's like issues with Joe and Matt. Oh yeah!
Frank Miller was at the height of his power after Daredevil Born Again was a hit in 1985. And then in 86, he wrote a little book you might know about called Batman The Dark Knight Returns. Can't say I've ever read it. It was a massive hit, and it followed that up with ELEKTRA Assassin with artist Bill Sienkiewicz, which was serialized from...
Now, hold on. I know you know how to say his name.
I know, Sienkiewicz. Which was serialized from 86 to 87. So this came out, literally started the same year as The Dark Knight Returns, which kind of blows my mind.
Sure.
This was for their adult line, Epic Comics. He would return to DC for another legendary Batman story, Batman Year One in 1987. And all but one of these series would go on to become massive tentpole stories for the characters that continue to sell as legendary reprints today. Daredevil's even getting a TV series based on Miller's story at Disney+. Elements of Miller's Batman stories have been used in every Batman movie, but ELEKTRA Assassin never got to celebrate that same kind of legendary status outside of, creators and diehard nerds. While it's not
because it's ELEKTRA.
I guess.
Because it's not Batman or Daredevil, it's ELEKTRA.
While it's not...
She's a sexy ninja,
We'll talk
baby.
about that later. While it's not impossible to find, ELEKTRA Assassin wasn't the same blockbuster hit in the 80s as Miller's Daredevil or Bat stories, and today, it's all but disappeared. So, the Slack Issues crew assembles to discuss Miller and Sienkiewicz's ELEKTRA epic, no pun intended, and try to figure out why didn't this click with fans? I don't get it, but we'll get there. We'll talk about it.
We'll have our chance to theorize. Speaking of the crew, today we are joined by our friend, Dungeon Master, and host of the upcoming Swords and Scrolls podcast, Mr. Jared Woolly Toots Savitas. You have been warned. He has been day drinking. Welcome aboard, Jared.
Hey,
we
man.
hope you survive the experience.
Me too. But hey, man, if I'm anything like the ugly man, I'll get through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you will, buddy.
Yeah.
You'll get through it.
You'll tank your way through this one, huh?
Before we get into it, Matt and I have not read this before. Jared, was this also your first read of ELEKTRA Assassin?
Yes, it is.
Oh, so we're all virgins. I thought maybe you had read this.
Yep. No, I had, okay, so I think my senior year, I got the ELEKTRA Saga book, which I didn't realize until you guys did your Valentine's and you did that first episode with Elektra, and I was like, I don't think I have that. And then I remembered I had this book, and then I was
Daredevil
like, okay,
Daredevil
yeah.
168.
Yeah.
First appearance for Elektra.
Yeah.
But then Frank Miller went back and it stretched that story out and added pages to it.
Yeah.
And they did like these larger issues called Elektra Saga. It was 4 issues long, and it was reprints of those Daredevil stories with added pages.
Right. It was more chronological
also-
type origin, right?
But also minus all the stuff that wasn't about Elektra.
yes.
Yes, exactly.
So it's essentially
Yes.
a Cliff's Notes version of Elektra's history up to that point.
And don't forget
Yeah.
about a
And-
great way for Marvel to sell you something twice. Huh?
And like Matt said on your Valentine episode too, she is so, like she's not a ruthless killer in the beginning.
No.
But then like by the 3rd issue of this Elektra saga, like right before the crap with Bullseye, it goes super dark then. And
Yeah. Miller made a
the
choice.
stuff leading up to that, she's like fighting the Hand and killing ninjas that turn into smoke or come back to life, and it doesn't really matter.
Right.
But then the switch flips and it gets dark and deadly, and then shortly after that, I saw that
Now
the
wait,
big
did that
oversized
saga,
hardcover Elektra Lives?
the Elektra saga, did that come out before this? I think it was
wanna say it.
after.
I want to say it probably did, dude, because hold on, we better check the truth.
We're all
of it.
Googling furiously.
Oh, 83 was the first issue. Now was that, the Elektra saga. 83 was the release date, cover date,
So
84.
it came out so it ended after her departure from Daredevil, where
Right.
she's like presumed dead, or maybe she's not dead.
Well, when
That's
did,
the end of Elektra saga.
Okay.
When did Elektra Lives come out?
Elektra Lives Again was a graphic novel that came out far enough past Elektra Assassin, far enough past Elektra Saga that Frank Miller was drawing in his Sin City weirdo style.
Yeah,
1990. Elektra Lives Again
That's
was
gorgeous book, dude. Elektra Lives
1990. So it was
is
a
gorgeous book.
It was
It's
3 years
awesome.
after this Elektra Assassin, basically.
Okay.
So I read a little bit, and I may be remembering slightly incorrectly, but I believe the story goes that Miller wanted to tell the story of Elektra's resurrection, but he wasn't prepared to do so for whatever reason. In the mainstream comics, she comes back in the Fall from Grace storyline, a very famous Daredevil storyline from the 90s. It's by D.G. Chichester and Scott McDaniel.
Yeah.
It's the debut of the black armor Daredevil.
Oh boy.
But it's pretty well regarded. I have not read the whole storyline. It did come out at peak 90s though. Elektra comes back for the first time in like flesh and blood form in that comic, as far as like the main comics are concerned. So Elektra Lives Again was like this big beefy graphic novel. So
Yeah.
it was it was a totally separate thing. Some might even say that you can judge it separately from continuity because
I feel
Frank
the
Miller
same way
just being
about
Frank Miller.
I feel the same way about Elektra Assassin. Like
We're gonna-
it feels
yeah.
so disconnected.
Elektra Assassin, I think Marvel chooses bits and pieces of Elektra Assassin to
Definitely.
count,
And we'll talk about it. But real quick,
and
before
we will
do,
because I have things to say about some of the characters that appear in this.
let's talk about Epic real quick, Jared. And just a short, like you brought up a couple notes. What was Epic? It was like their adult line in the 80s, right?
Well, okay, so in 82, I think from 82 to 86, Epic Illustrated was a magazine that Marvel put out to compete against heavy metal.
Okay.
And so it had those type of stories. I mean, isn't that where we got like some crazy Hulk stories, and wasn't there like
Well,
characters
Marvel's
got introduced in Epic, didn't they?
Marvel had a magazine line already in the 70s that put out the Rampaging Hulk.
But that
and
wasn't,
Howard the Duck.
that wasn't Epic.
So Epic Illustrated, was one of those, but there was also an Epic Comics comic book line that put out
that
books like
spun out of Epic.
Steel Grip Starkey.
Yeah, dude. Dreadstar was in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dreadstar.
Yeah, so Epic
Alien Legion.
Epic
Huh?
Comics.
Yep.
The Epic Comics pretty much replaced Epic Illustrated because they folded that in, and then they started the comic line, and they started doing more adult stuff in comic book form.
And it was really
Matt called it their adult. Matt called it their adult line, which is maybe a little bit.
Well, I mean, they
implies a little bit more than we might want.
They were allowed to do adult themes. Now, like, honestly, it was
mature readers, for sure.
And it was all, for the most part, like creator-owned stuff. Cadillacs and Dinosaurs came out here. Dreadstar, like we talked about. They licensed like Hellraiser, but the only really Marvel stuff they did was Elektra. There was an Iron Man Crash book. I think that's it.
I remember like St. George and Powerline. That was like the big epic kind of crossover almost.
Wild Cards was in there. Weirdo Wild Cards.
There was a prestige format, like square-bound Wild Card series that came out during.
All right, enough of this.
Swords of the Swashbucklers in there?
Oh, yeah, that was like the Puss in Boots story with like the cat with the sword. But let's talk about ELEKTRA ASSASSIN. We've never read it. This is crazy. I thought at least you were the first one. I found out I have a hardcover of this that I've never read.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
So before we get into it, to finish my thought from before, Frank wasn't ready to do Elektra's resurrection story. And so he did this 8-issue epic miniseries that is like this nebulous, like it could take place before her death for all we know,
Fair enough.
It doesn't necessarily take place at any specific time.
So we'll kind of roll through these issues, discuss them. I've got a little setup that I wrote, and then we each took some notes we can talk about. But we start with ELEKTRA ASSASSIN #1 from Marvel Epic, 1986. Now, here's how you know it's not as hot as those other stories, because in CGC 9.8 condition, you can pick it up for $100. You can get this whole collection. Near mint, $15. It's crazy.
Where did this pricing obsession come from all of a sudden with this show?
Oh, people want to talk about
I don't know,
collectibles.
Toots.
It's fun.
What do you mean don't give me that whole set selling for $15-$20. That's an outlier and you know it.
No, it isn't. I looked, a bunch of them were selling for $15 to $20. No lie.
Really?
I think there's
Then why are we even talking about the prices for the rest of the
I'm just trying to frame how not huge this is compared to going to buy originals of, say, Return of the Dark Knight or Born Again or whatever. We're comparing and contrasting. This is written by Frank Miller, cover and art by Bill Sienkiewicz, letters by Jim Novak, and that will be true for all the issues except for the very last one, where we get a new letterer for some reason, and I don't know why. Here's how we start. Elektra is in a mental hospital, recounting her origin, starting with her parents' murder. From there, it moves through her training under Stick, her meeting Matt Murdock, and later on, joining the Hand. This is sort of, she's not in a good place right now, right? Elektra,
yeah, it's true.
I would call her an unreliable narrator at this point.
Yes, that's true for almost the entire
book,
yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it is until, well, yeah.
It does get more clear.
It gets more clear.
I will say that the last several issues are pretty much straightforward.
It gets
because that's when the reports start.
Yes, that's my point. It only gets more clear when other characters are like, oh shit, this is what was going on.
Yeah, we need to have characters in the comic book figure out what is happening in the comic book to tell you what is happening
exactly.
in the comic book.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like
precisely.
Elektra is, we're in her head and we're seeing the art, like this crazy, insane mixed media stuff with like crayons and cutout cardboard and stuff. And it's Sienkiewicz doing comics like no one has seen before at this point in the 80s. No one has done this. Some of it looks very Vertigo to me, and I find it hard to believe this didn't influence some of your favorite Vertigo artists like Dave McKean and shit like that when we get to the asylum scenes, because it goes from like this very bright, almost pop art, colored, playful stuff to nightmare in the asylum. Absolutely terrifying.
So time jumps all over the place in this, and we're going to touch on that.
Yeah.
Because Matt took some notes that I have a response to because of the way the time is working. But yeah, it's like there's what looks like a painting, a portrait of a person, and then I guess it's her dad.
Yeah.
And then he's got like teardrops drawn on his portrait, like with a ballpoint pen.
Right.
It's that sort of thing.
Like she's adding stuff to her happy memories and whatnot. And then it's cutting back and forth to the asylum. She's getting sprayed with water. There's a bunch of other women there. And then it goes back to like really vivid training scenes, some of which are just like, I don't know, they look like cutout paper almost. Like it's incredible.
I mean, they're bright childhood memories, right?
No, I'm talking about like when she's training under stick and stuff.
No, I know. I'm looking at them. It's kind of it's very like I mean, it's yes and no. Like there's one panel that looks like cutouts, and then one panel that's just as vibrant, but it's clearly rendered with a pen or brush or whatever.
He's just all over the place, and he is not scared to do it.
It's crazy. The switching of styles is insane.
Yeah.
And that's what I noticed right away. And I want to say it was probably halfway through the series where I was like, this looks like Simon Beasley.
So some of it, yeah, definitely.
With how like extreme proportioned characters get, and with goofy, crazy hair.
Like Kevin O'Neill as well, like martial law kind of like Judge Dredd, right?
It's a feast.
It's bonkers.
A visual feast. Yeah, absolutely, Toots. So Matt, I want to touch on something you put in your notes, but and forgive me if you were about to say it, but
no.
So during Elektra's kind of memories, it's very, very strongly implied that she was molested by her dad.
Yeah.
But then it says that therapy and memory regression, et cetera, have proven those memories to be false.
Right.
But the doubt is still there. So we don't know if it's true or not. So we're not even sure if Elektra's memories, like she's an unreliable narrator even to herself.
Yeah, we can't trust her at all. But I mean, like we see in this issue is messing with you, and they kind of tell you more what's going on next issue, and we'll get into it. But like when she goes and trains with the hand, they basically completely mess with her brain.
Well, not the hand, the chased or whatever, the sticks. Good guys.
No. I'm talking about she goes to the hand. She goes to the hand and trains in this too, and she drinks the milk and she sees the beast and everything.
Oh wait, yeah, maybe I forgot about that.
Yeah, I've got all these.
Doesn't she drink the milk? Doesn't she drink the milk?
She drinks the milk of the beast.
The rotten mayo
when
milk.
She's trying to. Oh no, they force the milk on her.
Yeah,
they force the milk on her. Right.
They force the milk.
In the asylum, though, right?
Or no.
She's
flashing
with
back.
Those asylum scenes. They're happening at the same time. They're overlapped.
It's part of her flashbacks. And like the beast, like you see the picture of her dad crying and the beast is standing over her as he's pouring the milk on her and stuff. So we don't know. Is this what messed her up? Is this partially what's screwing up her memories and everything? And like makes her a complete psychopath? I don't know. But we can't trust her.
Okay, yeah. She was captured by the hand.
Yeah.
And then turned by the hand.
Right.
See, but
the milk of the beast.
Again, Miller can't help but like screw around with what he already did.
Yeah.
And like
absolutely
go back and flip it all around and mess it up. So like that's why I feel like this is separate. And aside from S.H.I.E.L.D., there's no other Marvel presence hero-wise.
Not at all.
So it's like, to me, it just feels so...
I think it is.
A capsule.
I think it is, and I think like what Joe said, they really take parts of it, because like one thing that happens, okay, so in this issue, part of it is we see how Elektra got to the asylum. She assassinated this guy that she was sent to kill, right?
Huevos Rancheros.
Right. His name is Huevos,
Carlos Huevos.
And ends up in the asylum afterwards because they were basically like, they wrote her off. She got caught. Forget it. She doesn't work for anybody. We don't know who she is, and we can't ever connect it. It's only there when her memories start to come back that she starts to connect. Oh, yeah, after I killed this guy, I went to this funeral, and I found out this dude's not the bad guy that I thought he was. This other dude that works for the United States government, Reich, the ambassador.
He
is the bad guy, right?
Possessed by the beast.
He's possessed by the beast. He's got the same milk on the table and everything. And we see her like fighting with the beast and it's scratching her. But the doctors have told her, no, you mutilated yourself and stuff. None of that's real. So we don't really know anything that's going on yet.
Well, I think that what we can assume is true is that after the funeral, she goes to track down the ambassador to kill the ambassador who is clearly evil. And that is where she is attacked by the actual beast. And that is when she's captured and thrown in the asylum.
Yes.
So everything in the asylum up to this point, she has been remembering out of order.
Right. She's all jacked up. The milk's got her. So
She's all jacked up.
So before we move to issue 2, the cover of this one, is this the first great big gun in comics?
I doubt it.
Is it?
Well,
I don't
in
know,
her-
dude. Like 90s, like gigantic Rob Liefeld gun, because he would have been right around the right age to look at that cover and go, "Fuck yeah!"
I mean,
Maybe.
it certainly is a big gun.
I don't know.
You can't deny.
I don't know.
But yeah, I like that we see, bits and pieces of her origin that we already saw from like Daredevil 168, like she meets Matt Murdock.
Mm-hmm.
There's no mention of him as Daredevil, though.
No, just Matt.
No, just a
Matt.
brief flash of like how like she misses Matt, whatever.
Yeah, we never see
And-
Daredevil at all. We see Matt
No,
a few
just Matt.
times in the story, but that's it.
And yeah, so at the end of this issue, she escapes. She escapes from the mental hospital in San Concepcion.
No, on the subject of the
okay.
big gun and Elektra on the cover, like one of the most amazing Bill Sienkiewicz's cover of all time. Like I had a poster of this for a while when I was younger. Super sexy. That is Amanda Connor posing for Bill Sienkiewicz.
Well, I don't know if she was posing, but
She was
she was used as
She said
reference for Elektra's.
she posed as a reference model for a lot of these. And she did the same for Painkiller Jane, I guess, which, okay.
Well, that tracks because Jimmy Palmiotti worked on Pink.
I suppose, yeah. So issue 2, it's titled The Ugly Man. On the cover, we've got John Garrett, S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, cigarette chomping, racist, pervert, beer swilling cyborg.
So at this point in the
Not
story,
when we
he
first
just
meet him. Yeah.
at
Well-
this point in the story, all he has is a bionic hand.
He also He's also got a space in his head where he can put a recorder.
I think that's later.
No, that's not later. That's here when we first meet him. He's taking his hair
Oh, because
off.
his head is yeah.
Yeah.
Because they put his head on the.
So because he's already this group Tech Ops X, which looks like Tech Chops every time I read it, but it's X Tech Ops.
It's X Tech Ops,
Yeah.
which is a mouthful.
He works for them, and
Which is dumb.
They work as a division of Shield, supplying them with these cyborgs. And Shield's like, "Great, keep up the good work." There's some other stuff.
And little
going
blue
on
dwarves.
there. Well, we'll
Don't,
get there.
don't forget the dwarves.
We'll
yeah.
get there.
Tiny dwarves. Yeah.
So
They're
this
all around.
This is
They're
the
all
first
around. They
appearance of John
help. They're
Garrett
like
from
Jawas.
Shield,
They help
who
you
I
out.
don't think
Building shit.
we never see this character again, right? John Garrett's not
Yes,
around
we
this.
do.
Oh,
we
do
see
we?
him many times.
Okay, I don't
Yes.
remember him.
Yep.
Garrett-
He also comes back. He also comes back during Fall from Grace, and then
Oh, that's right.
After that, he makes a like Tony Stark thinks about recruiting him for the 50 State Initiative. Like he is reinstated as a Shield agent in good standing. So I guess he
Does he?
stops being so scuzzy.
What's he look like? Does he look like this, or does he look like?
Well, probably
Prez?
not like this.
Not
no.
quite like this. No, he's not the fat cyborg that they made for some
I'd say
reason.
probably, beard and stash is probably the most we get. But he's also a recurring character in Secret Warriors by Jonathan Hickman.
Oh, that's right. He was. I totally forgot. Here he's stationed in Central America, wants to get the hell out. We meet his partner and fellow cyborg, Perry, while the two are investigating Huevos' death. Garrett, who we should mention, he was like the El Presidente of this San Concepcion. Garrett thinks he's tracking Elektra because they're beating up this junkie. And they're like, "Tell us who killed Huevos." And the junkie's like, "She was like death. She was terrifying." And so he's like, "We got to track this girl, right?" But we quickly find out Elektra is totally tracking him. And she kills the hell out of his partner. And she blows Garrett to bits in the end of this, but doesn't quite kill him. Garrett sort of becomes your reliable narrator in this part, but we slowly find out that Garrett's story is completely incorrect. Now, this is the issue, and I want to talk about this, where we see Elektra full-on use powers. She stops a bullet with her mind. She puts telepathic mind whammies on people and stuff. I don't recall any of this.
She does
So I
like
don't-
mind possession. She can like control a person's
yeah.
body, like swap minds.
Yeah. So I looked it up, and so telekinesis isn't. I think she stopped the bullet with her ninja skills, but
She does it with her hand.
yeah, with her ninja skills. I think she catches the bullet with her ninja skills.
Okay.
Because she's fast and furious like a ninja.
That's some Remo Williams bullshit.
Yeah, it really
Yeah,
is.
right. Yeah, sure. She's tapped into the power of the Kali Yuga or whatever the hell he was, Shiva the Destroyer.
Kali Yuga.
And so I looked it up. She is listed as having the ability to confound people and make them see things that aren't there. Not quite like illusion casting, but making them think they're seeing things.
Right.
She's able to like cast her mind into other bodies and do like mind swap kind of stuff. So she's got these mental abilities that I don't think I've ever seen her use.
And I'm not like, she's not like a mutant or anything. I think this is just straight up ninja magic.
Ninja magic, baby.
She's got ninja magic and the milk from the beast. Just like when we saw with the Punisher in Jason Aaron's book. The Beast empowered the Punisher and he could fly and he had like red flame glowing around him and stuff. And he could go toe to toe with Ares, who was a god. So it's like evil ninja magic.
So we're thinking that the Beast and Aaron's Beast are probably the same beast.
Gotta be.
I guess the Beast is like the god of the hand.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
Demon lord of the hand.
And he wants
That's what I was wondering. I was like, what the hell is this thing?
it's got to be, it's that beast that they talk about that wants to bring about the grand slaughter and all this stuff. We'll get to the beast plan here, but it has to be
I
the
got
same
something to say about that.
I really dug it. I thought the art in this one, it was a little more, I mean, it was still crazy. There was still a bunch of mixed media and stuff. Like, I love the hand ninja master. That's literally like two pieces of white with eyes poking out, and how he like blends into some of the panels.
He's all negative space.
Oh, I loved it. We've got Elektra running through the jungle, escaped. She kills a snake and eats it. Finds a movie crew that's like filming something with a friggin' lion. She rescues the lion. This book is nuts.
Yeah, I like the touch. Like, not that I like, the act of it, but that this shitty film crew cutting corners in this third world country was like drugging and starving a lion.
Yeah. Well, they did that shit back in the day.
Fuck you guys. Yeah. I'm taking your lion and I'm leaving.
But then, like
Matt mentioned, each issue starts with that newspaper clipping page, right? But then after that, every issue has a splash page, and every issue ends with a splash page.
Yeah.
And I would love just those as a series of prints, because one of
hell yes,
the issue 2-1 is just jungle plants.
Yeah.
And it says chapter 2, the ugly man, and it's gorgeous. Like that's all ultimately, my bottom line with this series is look at it. If you never read it, just whatever, but look at it.
The story is great, but it takes some effort.
Oh yeah.
This issue in particular, it finally occurred to me by the time it was over that everything that Garrett is talking about, everything we're seeing from Garrett's point of view happened in the past.
Yep.
It happened in the past, and this is just Elektra reading it off of his mental implant.
Pretty much.
From this gigantic Cerebro-looking dome helmet.
Yeah.
In the shield, PsyOps bunker or whatever.
Yeah, like in his head, he's like, I caught her, and we brought her into S.H.I.E.L.D., even though we saw him get blown up in the previous issue.
No. No, I don't.
Yeah. He thinks he caught her.
No, we don't know that. We don't know that. We know that they catch her.
Right.
Because they talk about how she's being held prisoner on a different floor. But the last we see from Garrett's point of view is that he gets blown up real good.
No, I know. What I'm saying is in this issue, after we saw him get blown up, he's sitting getting his hair put back on and stuff. Some of this is in the past. He thinks, I got her. I brought her in. I'm a total badass. And that is not the case at all. She is putting a fantasy on you right now. She is sitting in a machine and she is reading all of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s plans for what's going to happen next, basically.
He's not in any bandages. I think the scene, because he's smoking.
Yeah. I agree, but I don't think this is actually happening at all.
I think the scene with Garrett getting his hair put back on by the machine is something that Garrett has recorded on his memory implant that Elektra is reading. So the only thing happening in the present is Elektra reading the thing in the dome helmet.
Agreed.
Everything else is a memory recorded by his memory implant.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. But like again, this is still it's hard to know.
They keep
because
calling it the
it's
tape.
obviously not clear.
Oh no, the tape picked it up.
Elektra and
How
Frank
confused.
Yeah, because Elektra and Frank Miller are both fucking with us, basically.
Yeah.
It's great. Issue 3 is called Rough Cut. This issue really spells out what is exactly going on, finally. It starts to put the pieces together from everything from the initial assassination of Huevos to how Elektra's brain was affected by the hand and possibly why she has powers. They don't say for certain, but they're kind of leaning that way. There's something going on with their brain. We know that.
That's as far as they can
Yeah.
determine with science.
Before
It's
this,
like she's got weird reptile brain.
right. Before this,
Or-
it seemed
or
like
whatever.
Elektra's mind was totally broken, but now we're starting to see her take control as Garrett slowly turns into this broken, unreliable narrator. Like his story is really starting to fall apart. And the only reason we know what's going on is because we have these like sort of square word boxes that I assume are his memories from the recorder in his head.
So anytime you see those blue caption boxes with the like angled, the beveled corners, that's Garrett's internal monologue.
Right.
And that's something that you'll have to pay attention to for the remainder of the series, because every character that's got an internal monologue has a different box, basically.
Right. And you
And
can
they overlap. They like overlap
Sometimes they
on
overlap,
each other
yeah.
and tumble together.
and you could start to see Garrett's inner monologue go insane too. And it gets pretty good. I love this machine that they're using to put them back together. It's like Sienkiewicz madness. It looks like
It looks like a sewing machine tipped a giant sewing machine tipped on its side.
crazy. We start to meet other characters. It like the with great names like Jack Off. So
Yeah, Vladimir Jakov.
I believe it's
I
Yakov.
love the character names. I love Colonel Carlos Huevos. I love Vladimir Jakov. And yeah, and they continue with goofy names like this.
Yeah, this spread of Elektra with all the wires in her head and stuff. Absolutely gorgeous to look at. And again, you've got our reliable narrator, Garrett, telling us like, yeah, we got her wired up like a Christmas tree, probing her body and mind. She won't be keeping her secrets. And that is not what's going on at all.
No, and something that we find out in this scene is that Garrett can somehow see her wired to the machine, even though he's nowhere near her.
Yeah, he's starting to ask himself
She's
questions.
on a completely different floor in a different room. Like they have some sort of link now. They are linked mentally.
But he's such a macho 80s kind of like action, like rogue cop star, like that he's just like, he's not asking any questions right now. He's like, I wonder what that's about. Screw it. Bleh. You know, like, oh, you might want to pay attention to that, buddy. I love his shield boxers, by the way. Those are great.
His shield boxer. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need those.
I want shield boxers so bad. This is also the issue we meet presidential candidate Ken Wind, not wind, but wind, like the air, which they keep saying.
Yeah, not like the toy, but like the air.
Yeah, he's always got this black and white smiling face. That's like a fumetti kind of
So
face.
it's not Fumetti. Fumetti is photo. Fumetti
Okay,
is
all
a
right.
photo, but this is a
It looks
drawing.
like a photocopy.
It does. It looks.
It is a
Xerox.
drawing Bill Sienkiewicz did that he puts through the ringer throughout the course of this series. It gets more and more like abstractly filtered.
Yeah.
From some scenes to another. But usually for the bulk of the beginning, it's just this like black and white newspaper clipping. No matter where we see the character. So like,
Right.
even if we're seeing him in person in front of a campaign rally, it's just a cutout of that
Or even
face.
backwards sometimes. It's like the face
It
is
was
still
backwards that
facing
page,
you.
yeah.
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 Now, reportedly, this is a self-portrait. Other people thought it was supposed to be Dan Quayle. I guess this is a
Yeah, it even
self-portrait.
says it in the wiki for Elektra
Yeah.
Assassin. It's like, this guy looks like Dan Quayle, but Bill Sienkiewicz says it's a self-portrait.
There you go.
But Bill Sienkiewicz is a good-looking dude, and in 1985, 86, I bet I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, why not? So as we see Garrett laying around, getting fat and drunk and smoking, and like we start to get some of Miller's libertarian bullshit coming out, where he's the bureaucratic bullshit and all the Well, he's not real crazy about gay people and drops the F word quite a bit. You know, it was the 80s, so whatever.
I mean, I like to think that that's not Miller's point of view, but yeah.
No, but I mean, not that it's his point of view.
He's got characters that say it.
Right. But the way he talks about the government and the bureaucrats and all this shit, like he works for S.H.I.E.L.D., but he hates his job. And he thinks everybody's stupid there. And he just wants to get out of Central America and whatnot. And he thinks he's got Elektra right where he wants her. She's planning to kill Reich. He knows some of this, doesn't know why. We start to get in these really cool sort of like 4-panel spreads with, again, what look like little sections of Xeroxed art maybe plugged in when we're reading this S.H.I.E.L.D. debrief that's basically saying, here is everything that's going on. This is what we know about the assassination. We know this character did it. We're pretty sure we're putting all this stuff together. And they have it right for the most part. They just don't know what Elektra is actually doing.
Yeah, so this debrief, part of this debrief is one of the final scenes we see with Elektra in the previous issue, and they talk about how she closes the emergency gate in the computer room where she's reading the memories.
Yeah.
And it takes them 10 minutes to break the door down, after which she proceeds to kick most of their asses, killing 2.
I mean, she's a full-on super ninja. No question.
Yeah. But the whole time Garrett is like breaking this down, like this is what happened beat for beat. She was on a ride going the opposite direction of the merry-go-round that her target was on. And she still hit him with a crossbow bolt in the neck. Like, and he's like, ninjas. And they're like, shut the fuck up. There's no such thing as ninjas.
And it's all sort of like, well, we can take a ninja. Give me a break.
This is where I saw, I also read, I looked at the wiki, and it did say that Frank Miller did the full script method of writing this comic.
Yeah.
And this is where that became obvious to me, because this is very Dark Knight Returns, where it's like
totally
screens,
screens with
dictation,
a picture, box of text, a picture, just rows and rows and rows and rows of it, pages and pages and pages of it.
Very, very much.
So I can see this is where Frank was like, this is how you're going to lay it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
For those of you that don't know the difference or don't know about the Marvel method is this kind of legendary way of script writing, of comic book creation that Stan Lee invented. Sure. I mean, we'll give him credit.
Invented.
Yeah. Stan Lee invented a way to write comics without actually writing comics, and then he took credit for it as an artistic achievement. He's like, look at what I have done. Anyway, the Marvel method is basically like the writer prepares a pretty detailed outline of the story. Like, this is where the story's going to go. This is how each page is broken down. And this is kind of what I see, in from beat to beat, whatever. And then the artist gets that. This is without dialogue for the most part. Sometimes the writer will put some dialogue in if he knows, like, and at this point the character needs to be able to say something like this, so he has to be in the right place at the right time.
Right.
But then this outline goes to the artist, who then creates 20 pages of sequential art based on this outline, and then the writer goes back with the outline and the art, and then uses the art to inform the final script. So a lot of times the script is changed,
like, for instance,
because the artist came up with an idea that the writer didn't.
Like, Bill Sienkiewicz shows up with a little guy named Beaker that's running X-Tech Ops that has a weird wheelchair with a rocket on it.
But we know from the intro to this book that Frank Miller delivered full scripts to Bill Sienkiewicz.
Yeah.
So Beaker in his rocket chair is all Frank.
Maybe it is. I don't know. I would think some of this, like the dwarves we get into, I would feel like Sienkiewicz is like, I'm going to sneak these in here. And he was like, yeah, all right.
Beaker also sits at a giant desk that's got a monitor on it that puts a giant angry face on the front of it when he's screaming at you. So
I love it.
It's very bizarre. It's very bizarre.
So as we see Garrett slipping, like, Garrett gets put back together, right? And he's full cyborg. Doesn't look cyborg at all. They don't draw him that way. Just looks like a dude. But as he gets, like, more and more under Elektra's thrall, did you feel like his hair got bigger and bigger?
That's what I mean. Like, it's where it gets very Simon Beasley. It's
Yeah.
just very.
I'm not sure if that's like a.
Joe said, McKean. It's very like, whang.
His hair.
I'm not sure if that's a visual cue or if it's just Bill being Bill.
I
but
can't
yeah.
tell. Honestly, I can't tell at this point. So while Elektra was
like
held
this,
captive, she gives up all this information about what she's going to do and whatnot. And we see Garrett come in to gloat, and he's all like, yeah, I'm going to touch you. And yeah, take it, girl, and whatever. It's really creepy. And find out that's not going on at all. She's actually convincing him to free her so she can go and kill Reich, because now that she's been in S.H.I.E.L.D., used her ninja powers to absorb all their plans, basically, and knows exactly where he's going to be.
Yeah, she knows what's up. She stabs him through the back, through a wall.
It's
That's
badass.
ninja magic.
It was at this point, like, I'm not going to say I felt sorry for Garrett because he's a terrible person, but like, you can see him just slipping into pure madness. It's kind of great.
You know what? Something I want to praise real quick, art-wise, is after Garrett realizes where she's going, he hops a plane to go to the rally where Reich is going to meet Wind.
Right.
And as he's walking through the airport, you see him constantly being followed by a little old woman in a red stocking cap.
Yep.
If you look very, very closely, that woman is in almost every panel.
Oh, yeah.
That he is in.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm looking at one right now where she is so small, you can only see the top of her stocking cap and her eyes poking out from behind his gigantic shoulders. It's so great. And it's like, yeah, that's Elektra.
And this
obviously.
this is actually the only time where we see Wind and he has a normal face. And it's because I think he's...
That's not Wind. That's Wind's aide.
Oh, it's his aide. You're right. My bad. And he's like hanging out with someone who's obviously also Elektra in disguise.
You know, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure.
I didn't know about that either. I thought it was, but you know,
I think it is.
But why? Why would she lead the aide aside? Oh,
because she smashes
yeah,
his head
you're
in
right.
the toilet, dude.
You're right.
It's her.
Because she smashes him into the toilet and
Yep.
then stabs Reich through the back.
And
Yes.
he even says, that was when the strangest thing happened. The local girl he was with, she looked right at me. And then she turned into the killer and winked at me. That's what I saw, sir. My word of honor.
Yeah. Yes.
It's so great. It's just like all that ninja magic bullshit. Now, some of this that we talked about, like, I'll buy, like, in the regular comics, she does ninja magic shit. Same way Daredevil does. We've seen him do that, where he confuses people and, like, people don't know that he's right there.
Mind
sometimes.
control, though.
Not
that's
mind.
a whole
I mean,
nother kettle of
mind
fish.
control's a whole ball of wax. But I think, like, the biggest thing that is setting this apart of not being in continuity is the fact that she is not afraid to just murder S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and murder, you know, like, innocent people that work for the military and stuff like that to get what she wants.
Anybody in her way.
Yeah.
Well, but I don't know that I haven't read all of Frank Miller's Daredevil in a long, long time. And I know that we talked about how in the first issue, her first appearance, she doesn't kill anybody. She hits him with the handle of her sai, right? But I don't remember whether or not by the time we see her death at the hands of Bullseye in 181 that she isn't killing dudes.
Here's the thing, Joe, real quick. In that Elektra saga, where he adds pages to that first appearance of Elektra, she is killing dudes immediately. In that very same for all these added pages, long before you ever see where she just hits dudes with her handles. So it's a really jarring back and forth
Miller
reading
added
Elektra
this
saga.
shit. Yeah, he went
where
back
it's like,
and added this
He
stuff.
went back and he's like, she's a killer immediately. Killing. It's crazy.
You got to wonder if, like, the bullpen was like, tone it down. We want her to be the girlfriend or whatever. And then they saw how popular he was. And they're like, all right, Frank, do whatever you want with her. And he went, all right, I'm going to fix this and do it the way I wanted to do it.
But
you know?
So Frank would continue to tinker with Elektra's origin and also Daredevil's origin for that matter. In the 90s, he put out Man Without Fear by with art by John Romita Jr. And it's basically Daredevil Year One. And it's a slightly different take. That's probably got a little bit of that and a little bit of this that we're talking about right now.
100%.
And yeah, and makes it into a much more like continuity friendly narrative. So the stuff about her, you know, the death of her dad and and all that. Like, that's probably in there. And the fact that she's killing people way earlier than we would have thought is probably in there.
I guarantee it. Let's move to probably the easiest issue to follow with the smoothest continuity. Issue 4, Young Love. This issue is completely fucking crazy. And it begins with the cover with like naked, like little Cupid, like cherubs with guns. And Garrett is caressing Elektra. In an attempt to get close to Wind, Elektra puts her mind into a comatose 19-year-old girl, Sandy. But she loses herself while trying to keep her connection to both Garrett and Sandy when the Beast tries to take her over. Meanwhile, Garrett is Elektra's only hope and getting attacked by other cyborgs while trying to save Elektra. This is where Garrett begins his bullet sponge phase, as I like to call it.
Yeah, because right now he's full on like indestructible.
Yes.
Robo Beast.
He's been rebuilt, and he's sort of the prototype for this thing that's going to come later. But this is also where we meet Fury. Fury shows up. And again,
I need to talk about
Fury.
this scene.
He's got the biggest gun in the world.
That's okay. This is what I thought you meant in your notes when you said the big gun. Okay, because when we got to this, I immediately was like, is this the gun in Next Wave that the general uses to try to kill himself with? I was like, that would be so freaking awesome.
Maybe.
if it was.
Maybe.
And I ran to the comic and looked. It's not.
Oh, okay.
It's not. It looks more like the big giant revolver that the Ugly Man uses. Like
Yeah.
Garrett. Yeah, like it looks more like that.
He has a
big, huge, giant
non-regulation
revolver.
gun that he uses that
Yeah.
his superiors are angry about.
That's the giant gun that the Shield General has in Next Wave. Is that thing?
But really,
Yeah.
the only other Marvel character that's here, Fury.
Fury, yeah. So before we get to the gun scene, because that's coming, that comes up. It may surprise you guys to hear, but I found this issue sort of hard to follow.
Oh, no shit.
I found the whole thing hard to follow, Joe. We were not on cocaine. That's the only.
Yeah,
way
that's
we
true. We weren't on
follow
cocaine.
this.
I think that's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
So Garth Ennis said that this Fury, the Elektra assassin Nick Fury, it was an inspiration for his take on the character in his Marvel Max books, which is pretty great.
Yeah, and I buy it. This Fury is like, he's a badass. He's in charge. He understands how to be the bureaucrat, but he's also Nick Fury. And so that was the only thing that kind of made me believe, like, okay, maybe there is this division within S.H.I.E.L.D. that is doing some cyborg stuff they don't know about, because S.H.I.E.L.D. is huge. Fury's a busy guy. And when it comes down to it, he's like, brief me on this. Tell me what's going on, and that's where we meet another character shortly. But this whole issue is just chase scene, basically. Yeah. It's Elektra putting herself in somebody else's body. That goes really bad. Garrett is killing other S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, and while he's doing it, he's like, oh, God, they're going to blame me for this. It's like, no one's going to believe Elektra's making me do this, but I have to do it.
So, real quick, again, before we move on too far, I'm not sure I understand the purpose of this gun that Fury is using.
That Fury is driving? Yeah.
It's a gigantic gun, like a
I literally think
like a gun on an aircraft carrier.
I literally think this is just imagery of them showing, this is Nick Fury. He's got the biggest gun at all because he's in charge,
But it also looks like he's firing it in the smallest possible room.
Yeah, like a tiny little range or something. Yeah.
Maybe it's just a light show, Joe. Maybe it just shoots a light beam out for fun.
Well, we're getting into
could be right.
the other end of this roller coaster where it's going to go over the hill and downhill and completely crazy and loop the loop, where Sienkiewicz is going nuts. Miller's going crazy with his storytelling, and it's getting hard to tell what is real at all. So, and keep in mind, Garrett's going nuts when he's seeing this. So when he walked in, maybe none of that's real. Maybe he's talking to Nick Fury, but he sees this crazy shit going on.
Nah, it's real. It's real.
I can't
I don't
tell.
think Garrett's going as crazy as you think. I think he understands that something might be steering him a little bit, like he's not in full control of his faculties. But when he's talking to Nick Fury, I think everything he sees in the room with Nick Fury is actually happening.
I think he's starting to go totally nuts because he meets Wind in this, and that's when he starts to smell the milk, and we get
Well, he smells the milk, yeah.
we get the rotten mayonnaise that he starts talking about, and he goes nuts after that. He figures out like, oh shit, I gotta go save Elektra. We're connected. Something's going on with this girl that she put her body in. The Beast is now taking over that girl. He goes on this massive chase and like ends up finding out that Wynn's own people are also brainwashed by the Beast and ninjas, I guess, even though they just look like normal people, which has to be true because he's a cyborg and he's having trouble fighting this guy, right? So this is real, right? Brad is who I'm talking about.
His buddy?
No, Brad was like one of Wynn's people who turns out to be a ninja.
Oh, they're ninjas.
Yeah.
All of the people that work for Wind are hand ninjas.
Yeah,
They're
but they
all
don't look
ninjas,
like it at all. They just look like normal people.
Well, yeah, they're in plain clothes. Like they're dressed like people.
Or they got
Some of
Psylocke
them
body
even look
swapped.
like old grocers, though.
I think they got Psylocke. I think they've been like body swapped through ninja magic and stuff, just like what Elektra's doing.
I mean, I don't know, because when Elektra sees them in the crowd and stuff, she's like ninja.
Well, because she's got the magic. She can do that.
But she identifies it as a ninja, not as an innocent person whose life has been stolen.
Well, I don't think she cares about that.
Maybe. I mean, I guess that doesn't really matter so much. Either they're just ninjas in disguise, or they're real people who have been taken over by ninjas.
Yeah, I think they are real people who've been body swapped, just like Elektra's body swapped Sandy. And the Beast helps them do this with the magic and the milk and all this. And that's why she's not great at it.
Let's talk about Sandy for a minute, because this is where things got super friggin' confusing for me.
Yeah.
Elektra uses Sandy. Elektra puts her mind in Sandy's body.
Right.
Because she needs to use Sandy to get close to Wind.
Right.
She needs a disguise, basically. She needs a human suit. I don't know exactly where her body is during all this. I think maybe they mention it, but I forgot.
She's in the
They
hospital.
should.
Spend a lot of time explaining it.
She becomes Sandy. And so she's in the hospital.
Well, okay, that's where that's what dawned on me later. Yes, you're right. Thank you. That's what dawned on me much later after I read her wiki page. She makes people think
Yes.
her body is Sandy in the hospital.
Right.
Elektra's physical body is in the hospital.
She puts her
Cloaked
brain in
as
Sandy.
Sandy.
That's what I'm talking about, like the other ninjas do to like Brad. Brad's probably just some dude.
Well, but no. I mean that Elektra has parked her body in a hospital bed. Her, meaning Elektra.
Her real body, yeah.
And then she is making people think this is Sandy. Meanwhile, she's actually driving Sandy's real body.
Yeah, just Psylocke and it's the Psylocke body swap is all it is. The hand did that too.
And because at the end of this issue, when all the chase is over, we find out they grab Sandy's body from the hospital?
No. Elektra is in Sandy's body. It is in the car. The Beast is taking over Sandy's body. And she needs Garrett to go get Sandy to get her far enough away from the Beast's influence that she can snap back into her own body, basically. Because as she gets too close, the Beast can influence her, right?
So you think that, okay, so this is another way I was confused, because if Sandy's body's in the limo, Elektra snaps back to her own body and then makes it all the way to where the chase ends?
Quite possibly.
To save Garrett from drowning.
Quite well. See, that's
Awesome
not
super ninja, baby.
Yeah, it's not real clear because you see her head like Sienkiewicz is kind of doing this ghostly thing where she's floating above her.
I mean, yeah, that's mind swap stuff.
Yeah,
mind swap.
But then I agree, her Elektra's body comes jumping into the river.
It's suddenly
there.
there. It's there.
Yeah,
like she's there in physical form.
So I don't know if she ninja ran there or it's not important.
Oh yeah, because it's like because Elektra's body is dying in the hospital.
Yes. Yeah, it's not real clear.
They have the bar across Sandy's face that's Elektra's eyes. So it's like floating over Sandy's body. So like, and then when they're in the hospital, they're like, count the time she's dead. We've lost her.
Yeah, because her body dies.
Yeah.
And it's like, I need to get her away so I can snap back into Sandy's body. But it's not, so it isn't real clear. So the only thing that I can think is maybe she is Elektra's body making everyone think she looks like Sandy. In which case, why do you need Sandy at all?
Why the mind swap?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the thing, right? Is that if Elektra's body is what's in the hospital,
It's very confusing.
Elektra's body's the one that dies. Elektra's body dies.
I don't disagree. And it looks like that's what's happening.
I'm confused. I'm confused, and I don't think we solved it.
That's the point of the whole series, is just to be confused.
I don't have an answer.
Just as confused as Garrett is, just as confused as broken Elektra is.
Oh, hold on, wait. Yeah, it's true. Oh, okay. It says, all right, here's what it says. It says, they think Sandy's dead. Sandy, aka Elektra. And Garrett's like, oh no, Sandy's dead. And Elektra's internal monologue, talking to Garrett now in her voice through their mind link. I'm doing what I must, Garrett. Sandy sleeps a moment from death.
Yeah.
But she must die alone. So she is making Sandy live out this like happy life. And then in the happy memory, it ends with Elektra
murdering her,
killing Sandy.
Yes. It still doesn't make any sense as to the body swap, or if she's just making everyone think she's her.
Let's just move on.
We're not going to make sense of it.
But I guess because then it says like,
we're not going to get there,
Garrett,
guys.
the beast is close. They hold me in the car.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, fuck, if Elektra's in the car, then what the hell?
So the car goes.
Garrett has also seen his ghost, his partner, the ghost of his partner.
Yep.
Is starting to appear to him.
He is hallucinating. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, he might be, or there's cybernetic stuff going on because we know.
It's just all over the place.
In the next issue, they're rebuilding his partner. So, don't know.
But does his partner have psychic stuff? I don't.
Maybe. I mean, maybe it's cybernetic telepathy. We don't know. I mean, I can't.
It's time to get to
telepathy.
McBride, guys. It's time to get to McBride.
Yeah.
Tune in next week to hear the exciting conclusion of our adventure into Elektra Assassin, but don't expect us to understand what's going on at all.
Yeah, it doesn't get any
Not
clearer
even
from
a
here,
little.
folks.
Breaker 19 is a snake bite. You got a copy in that comics convoy coming in next week. So we might want to stop these trucks on the road
To check out this shipment, Joe. Next week, Stephanie Phillips and Flaviano's Grimm #1 gets the pen and ink treatment, and boom. If you want to read The Dark Knight Returns, we were just talking about it, and the not-so-legendary sequel, The Dark Knight Strikes Again, DC has a 2024 Absolute Edition just for you. Bill Willingham's Fire and Ice gets a Tigra one-shot at Dynamite. I know you're excited for that one.
Not to be confused with Tigra from the Thundercats.
Not at all. Spider-Punk is back in his own series. Venom gets a What If, and the Women of Marvel get a one-shot just in time for Women's History Month at Marvel. And no New Comics Day haul would be complete without the 10th volume of Cherry Magic. 30 years of virginity can make you a wizard? ? Joe Patrick. Any of these titles make your must-read pick for next New Comic Day, February 28th.
10-4, good buddy. This is Big Shoots out there on the road, and my pick for next week is Flash #6 from DC Comics, written by Cy Spurrier with art by Mike Deodato Jr. It's 32 pages for $3.99. Here's your solicit. After the shocking ending of last issue, Wally West's world has been completely upended. And as he quite literally is putting the pieces together, the Stillness's attempts to reach out to a higher power are answered. Lace up your boots as the first arc of the critically acclaimed new era for the Scarlet Speedster concludes.
You're going to make me catch up, huh?
Yeah, this is the end of the first arc of The Flash, and it's pretty good.
Okay. We can talk about how we feel. This will be
weird.
Good. This will be good. We'll talk about how we
Speaking
feel.
of not really knowing what's going on, it's The Flash.
I'll give you that. My pick for next week is Savage Sword of Conan, #1 from Titan. It's 80 pages for $6.99. That is a steal. This is written by John Arcudi. Have not heard that name in a little while. Love that guy.
Yeah.
With art by Max von Fafner, distant relative of Max von Sydow. I don't know if you knew that. So
It's
fun.
true.
That's fun. Here's your solicit. The Savage Sword of Conan is back from Heroic Signatures and Titan Comics. I don't know what Heroic Signatures is, but they sound like real heroes. Like
Must
they're doing
be like the name of the imprint or the rights holders, if you will.
They sound like they're doing the hard work, like our first responders.
Yeah, they are. They're cutting the checks.
Featuring a new Conan epic from John Arcudi and Max von Fafner, the rousing return of Solomon Kane, written and drawn by Patrick Zurcher, and an electric prose story. An electric prose story from Jim Zub, spectacular art pinups, and more. The Savage Sword of Conan, issue 1, heralds a new era for adrenaline-fueled adventure. So, Savage Sword of Conan originally was a magazine back in the 70s. It did not have to conform to the comics code, so it could get a little risque and show violence they couldn't in most comics at the time. It sounds like Titan is sort of bringing it back to its anthology roots here and doing a couple stories. I'm mainly excited because I really like Arcudi, and I haven't read anything that guy's written in a while. He worked on...
I like Arcudi, too.
BPRD.
Solomon Kane, he is not, like, contemporary with Conan, right?
No.
Puritan.
No, he's a Puritan that, like,
So he's from, like, Pilgrim Times or
yeah,
later.
he hunts demons and devils and stuff. Also a Robert E. Howard character, though.
Oh, yeah, of course. That I knew, but, like, they're not... The only time they've ever crossed over is probably in one of those dumb Marvel, like,
Maybe.
Savage fill-in-the-blank books.
Yeah, he didn't make it on the Savage Avengers team, but I know they were kicking him around up there. I do love Arcudi, though. He worked on a bunch of BPRD. He worked on some... he's been all over at Dark Horse for a long time. Did some great Alien stuff. He even did some really good Legends of the Dark Knight stuff at DC a while ago, so... Happy to see him again.
Some savvy assistant manager at the Hy-Vee in Shenandoah, Iowa, would stock the magazine rack with Savage Sword of Conan, where I would stand while my parents grocery shopped. I probably shouldn't have been looking at it. As a fresh-faced young lad of 13, 14 years old.
You turned out fine. But, give me a break.
Hey,
13, 14? You know what I was looking at 13, 14? Are you kidding me?
I mean, look, that guy got away with something because that book was on the bottom shelf where the kids could get at it because it was a comic book.
You are not a kid at 14, son. I got news for you.
Come on, man.
I lost my virginity.
I was young and impressionable. The THN must-read trade for next week is Valiant Classics Collecting Ninjak, the 7th Dragon. It's a trade paperback from Valiant Comics or Valiant Entertainment, whatever we're calling them these days. It's 272 pages for $29.99. It's written by Mark Moretti and Various, with art by Joe Quesada and Various. And here's your solicit. Representing the complete classic adventures of Valiant's slickest super spy from his deadly debut and into the pages of his own smash hit series. Colin King, sophisticated British playboy by day, elite super spy by night. As Ninjak, King will put his brilliant mind and lethal training in the world's most dangerous fighting techniques to the test, facing down covert agents and criminal cartels, including a globe-spanning mission against his greatest nemesis, the WebNet terror network and its villainous mastermind, Dr. Silk.
Whoa.
Featuring all-time classic contributions from comics all-stars, including Joe Quesada, you know him, you love him, Mark Moretti, you probably haven't heard of him, but he wrote Eternal Warrior, Don Perlin, who did Captain America, he's a big Marvel name back in the day, Kevin Van Hook, who did Bloodshot, Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning, we know those clowns, and more. This collects Ninjak, 1994, numbers 1 through 8, Bloodshot, 1993, numbers 6 and 7, and Secret Weapons, also from 1993, issue number 5. The first appearances of Ninjak and the first 8 issues of his ongoing.
Obviously, we picked this to stick with our ninja theme. That makes perfect sense.
Clearly, yeah, we're rolling with something here.
Also, some very young, formative Joe Quesada art, and it's still great. He was fantastic.
Yeah.
Even back then, he was so good.
He was very good. And I've never read... My exposure to original Valiant is pretty limited. I've read some things here and there. I've never read Ninjak. I don't know if it's any good. I don't know if people really remember it fondly.
I own it. I own all these because it was Quesada.
I think it's cool that Valiant is like doing these kind of like affordable archives, so to speak.
Yeah, they're fun. And I own all these because I was a Quesada maniac. I love his art. They were a lot of fun. You might not spend your spare time on the CB talking to the comics convoys like we do, so be sure to pre-order these picks before heading out to the comic shop, especially if you want to read along with us. We're going to review these on our new comic show. Speaking of which, we got 2 back-to-back Slack issue shows because of a shortened month. So, our picks from this week, watch for a special YouTube exclusive review. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be something because our picks are
It's going to be something. It's going to be I agree with
unusual.
that. Let's not guarantee anything awesome. Let's guarantee something. That is it for THN 731. Next time, it's part 2 of our Slack Issues ELEKTRA Assassin read. We'll be back to our regular schedule in March after our leap year celebrations. And if you can't get enough of our Magic Ninja THN stuff, join us for the THN Gang Hang Saturdays at 11 o'clock Central. Check our Discord for details. Joe, tell them what else they can do on the Discord.
You can mourn the passing of actor Paul Diamato, known for his role as Tim Dr. Hook McCracken in the legendary hockey film Slapshot, who was also John Byrne's inspiration for Wolverine's physical appearance in the comics.
It's right there. You watch that movie?
Yeah,
it's true. It's like Wolverine with a hockey stick.
Yeah. Or maybe you just want to discuss our question of the week. In honor of this week's Slack Issues review of ELEKTRA Assassin, take a drink every time we mention it. Who are your favorite fictional femme fatales? We used to have a guy that used to pronounce it femme fatales.
Yep.
In the comic shop.
Can't prove that it's not pronounced that way, though, can you?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Prove it. Please keep your question of the week suggestions coming and sign up for our Discord with the link at twoheadednerd.com/Discord. Once you get in, you can post about any of our segments there or send an MP3 submission for the Comic Pushers, Ask a Nerd, or whatever to twoheadednerd@gmail.com. Hey, we'll put you on the show.
And hey,
Whether you want to be or not.
we are answering the question of the week on the Gang Hang now, too. It's fun.
That's right. You can now hear our answers to the question of the week in the gang, as well as everybody else that comes to participate.
If you're new to the show and you'd rather fill your ears with rotten mayonnaise than listen to any more, I assure you, it's only because you haven't heard enough. The good news is you can hear the entire run of THN in our digital longbox archive at twoheadednerd.com. THN is a listener-supported podcast. It wouldn't be possible without the generosity of donors like our patron, longtime listener, Chris, the British guy.
But he pays in weird foreign money, so I'm not sure it counts.
Yeah, I don't even know what a pound is. Like, what is that food? What are we talking about here? It's ridiculous.
Sterling? What is it? Made out of silver? Maybe it is.
If you like what you hear every week, like Chris, who puts up with our British racism, what a guy, I swear. It's easy to support this show. You can sign up to be a patron at patreon.com/twoheadednerd.
Matt, I keep telling you, it's impossible to be racist against British people.
Tell that to those limey bastages across the pond.
They can get Brexited for all I care. Before we go, our weekly shout-out goes to the coolest kid we know, John Tverdik's son, Hugo Tverdik, who celebrated an entire decade of life this week. Word to you, Hugo. I like to think that he's been listening to us the entire time because he's gifted.
It's too bad that we stopped bleeping everything. And, you know, what can you do?
He doesn't care. I've heard his dad cuss in front
he
of him
doesn't
a billion times.
Until next time, true believers, remember to pre-order your comics or your retailer might just use their comic shop owner magic to swap your body into a comatose victim only to kill you later. This is the Two-Headed Nerd, signing off.